Train, study, work, repeat. The LUNEX Unfiltered podcast on balancing sports, studies, and internships. In this podcast, we talk to professional athletes who have a student-athlete status at LUNEX. Obtaining such status allows the athletes to flexibly combine their training, competitions, and studies. Our guest today is Noah Trapp, a Luxembourgish judoka, 15 times Lux champion, silver medalist in Denmark in Danish Open, and holding loads of other medals and wins. Very excited to have you here, Noah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for your invitation.
So I said judoka, so we have to start with judo. Can you just tell me how you started?
So when I was 5 years old, I had to choose a sport. So first of all, I started football like every child, but it was nothing for me because it was a team sport. So I decided to try something else. Then I went to tennis, but there was like something missing, and I think it was the contact. So my parents took me to judo, and I fell in love with the sport, and I never quit.
But you still continue playing tennis?
Yeah, for fun.
And judo is not for fun?
Judo is for fun, but for performance.
For performance, for winning?
To win, absolutely.
And when you play tennis, you don't want to win?
Absolutely, I want to win. I want to win everything. It's my character. I'm a very sore and bad loser.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because I noticed, when we were just talking before this recording, that you are very motivated and very much wanting to win. What do you think? Where does it come from? Where is this trait? Are you born with it, or do you actually develop it?
I think I'm born with it. I mean, I cannot explain it. My brother is also like this. My father also. And I think it just runs in the family.
So you said you were trying different sports and then it was judo, but I guess someone had to suggest it to you.
My parents took me to judo because they thought that combat sport would be a good choice for me. And I think judo at this age is the most democratized sport for children. So they took me to judo.
Democratized in what sense?
Yeah, I mean that when you have a child, most of the time you put it to judo or karate. But I think there was no karate club in Esch, so it was judo for me.
Because you're from Esch, we didn't mention that.
Yes.
It's important. I noticed that sometimes even in interviews or in articles it says like, Noah from Esch.
Yeah, it's always the same sentence, Noah from Esch, yeah.
What I read about judo and what people say is that it's the gentle sport, or we talk about the gentle way of judo. What is that? I
think the gentle way of judo is because there are a lot of values, so there is a moral code. But I think like at the highest level, it's like every sport, like mixed martial arts, for example, you just have to win. I mean, respect for sure is very important, but the most important thing is to win. So for children, it's very, very interesting to do judo because it's a school of life, because you learn a lot of discipline, a lot of values that you can implement and apply in everyday life. But I think that at a certain level, you just want to win and forget a little bit about the other things. Okay. About the gentle way.
All right. At least maybe you're a bit gentler than in other martial sports.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but of course, if you're competing on a serious level, let's face it, I mean, it would sound very strange, right? When you said, like, I don't want to win. Like, no, that's the whole idea, possible. Right?
No, that's not possible.
Do you apply the same approach to your studies? You also want to be the best?
Yeah, I think it's my character. I want to be the best everywhere, in sports, in life, in everything I start in life.
Tell me a little bit about the studies. So we're at LUNEX, of course, so that's also what is very, very interesting to me. What do you study and how do you combine it with training?
Okay, so I'm in the first year of the Bachelor program in Sport and Exercise Science. I've always wanted to do PE since I'm like 11 or 12. It was simply what I wanted to do later on. So after my high school degree, I had to do a choice, of course, between, France, Belgium or Luxembourg. But to combine high-level judo and school, it was the best to stay here because my parents are here, my brother is here, and my team. So my brother and my coach. And I think that the family setting and the surrounding you have around yourself is very important to keep the performance high. And I think that was the most important criteria to stay here at LUNEX.
Okay, so it was, of course, a chance to study something that interests you, but also staying here in Luxembourg.
It was important for me to stay here in Luxembourg.
You keep mentioning your parents, which I'm not surprised. Of course, they are important, but you also talk about your brother. So I want to know a little bit more about him because I think it's a very interesting relationship.
Okay, so my brother is 2 years younger than me. And when I started judo, 2 or 1 year later, he also started judo because he was too young when I started. He was like just 3. And he also fell in love with sport, and we train every day together for 15 years now. So it's a very special and rare relationship that we have.
And is he stronger than you now?
I don't know. We are both strong. He's stronger on some aspects of judo. I'm better in other aspects. So I think we're complementary.
Oh, that's a very, very politically correct answer, I would say. I love that. Okay, so how does it work? I mean, you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And then what? You already train in the morning before coming to...
It depends on my schedule at the university. Sometimes I have lessons until 5 p.m., so I train in the morning. Sometimes, like today, I had from 9 to 12 p.m., so I train in the evening today. And depends also on the training. For example, today I have judo. Sometimes I have strength training or cardio sessions, so it depends on the trainings.
You train every single day?
I train every single day. Sometimes Sunday I have rest days. Depends on the schedule, on the phase I'm in. Or where
and then when you have rest days, you really have to keep to the rest days?
I have to. Sometimes I ask my coach if I can do something, pleasant for me, but rest day is rest day. It's part of the training.
It really means every single day. How
Yes.
do you get the motivation for that?
I don't know. It's just, I don't even think about it. It's like in my routine. I go to the training, I come home. It's like, I don't know, brushing your teeth every day.
This is really fascinating. Of course, once again, we are here at LUNEX, so I guess there are loads of people listening who are also very much into sports.
Yeah, of course.
So it would be natural for them. But for those ones who are considering it, are not training this much, we still have this tendency of like, oh, no, today I'm not going to train. It's not so much in their DNA. Do you think it's because you started so early or?
Yeah, I think starting so early had a big impact on what I'm doing today. And yeah, I think that's the reason why I don't see it as I don't see it as a training or as a task to do. I see it as my everyday life.
And you mentioned the network of friends and your parents and your brother, but I think there is also one more person we definitely need to discuss. So your mentor and your trainer, right?
Yeah,
because
of course.
I do believe that in any sport, especially at the competitive level, there has to be that person that, draws you up and helps you so much. So who is it and how did the relationship start?
Okay, so his name is Frédéric Jordery. So he's from Belgium. I started to train with him in 2013, so I was 10 years old. And I think that was just the game changer in judo, but also in life. He's my mentor, he's my second father, and he's the person who made me the athlete I am today. I owe him everything as a judoka.
So what kind of a person is he that you look up so much to him? What is it? Is it the way he trains? Is it the type of sportsman he's been?
I think it's everything. I mean, the person is amazing. He is an amazing athlete. He's like 46 years old now, and he still beats me every training, so I have no chance against him. And he's just amazingly fit at his age. And he's also like a great person, and I look up to him, and I want to be like him. So yeah, that's also why I choose to study PE, because he's also a strength coach. And yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to study sports science.
So you also saw him work as a PE
He's
teacher.
like the strength coach. I saw him work because I did my internship with him.
Okay, so now you're mentioning the internship, so we have to move to that smoothly as well, for sure. So as you're at the first year, this means that you've already done your first internship, and it was also with your mentor.
It was
trainer.
Also with him, yeah.
So how did it look? You came and there were some kids, I assume, that were looking at you and saying like,
no,
he's new.
No. So I had two different internships with Fred. So first of all, I had strength and conditioning in Belgium, so in Louvain-la-Neuve with the national judo team. And then on Wednesdays, I had judo. So it's a pedagogical project in a school in Rumelange in Luxembourg. And then I had the judo part and the strength part. And I think that's very complementary and I enjoyed it.
This was with kids aged?
From 5 to 12, maybe. It depends on the classes.
And you said strength? So it was like serious strength classes?
No, for them it was just judo.
Okay,
strength training was with national team in Belgium, so they're seniors athletes.
Okay, just judo.
Yeah.
But the 5-year-olds, I guess that's more values than
That's a lot
combat.
of values, motricity, basic skills, coordination, and all these skills can be implemented and transferred in PE also. And it's good for their everyday life also.
Yes, I understand. So you did with the national team and then also in the school.
Yeah.
So that's very different type of crowds, right?
It's different kind of population, and I think that's really complementary because later on when I'll be a PE teacher, I'll work with children and I also want to be a strength coach. So I will also have like two different populations. And I think that gave me a great experience and a great overview of what I have to do later on.
You want to be a PE teacher, you said, because of your mentor and because of your interest. What actually makes a good PE teacher in your opinion?
I think passion and experience. I think experience in sports in general is the most important criteria to have to be a good sports scientist or a good PE teacher. Experience is everything. You can have a huge number of diplomas if you have no experience or if you cannot transmit or deliver a message, it's useless.
But isn't it extremely difficult to be a PE teacher? And nowadays, we always complain that the teenagers, the youngsters, they just don't do any sports.
Yeah, I understand. I think it's a challenge and I want to try it. But I think I'll be able to make it fun and to make it sporty so that we can combine fun and sports.
From my personal, background, of course, different country, different times and everything, I just remember that we had those PE teachers that were all about, okay, here's the ball, just go play. That was basically how much they did.
Yes.
It's a cliche, but it was happening, really, unfortunately. We had, I was in a female group. There were a lot of girls who just really didn't want to do anything, which was annoying to me personally, but well, that's their choice. And then we had PE teachers who were trying, but that was a really, really difficult thing because exactly the levels were just so different. And how do you actually manage to train the ones that have a talent and can get a bit further and also motivate the ones that will never get far, but just to show them how fun it is?
I think that's the hardest part of the job. I mean, you have different type of characters, different kind of children, and you have to give something to everybody. So I think that's the hardest part, and I'll be ready to do that. I'm sure because I have a lot of experience with children, also with young adults, because I'm a judo teacher since I'm like 14. So I have a lot of experience and I know I'm able to do that.
So as you mentioned that you also already are training kids.
Yes.
And this is in a sports club in
in my club in Esch, yes.
In your club in Esch. And how does it look? Okay, so kids just come sign up from what age, more or less?
I think I have children from 6 to 11 or 12. Then they move up to the adult group.
And then they come, it's the first lesson. What do you do?
First lesson, is learning how to fall. Very important. To have fun. I do a lot of games with them because you have to keep in mind that when you train children, you don't train children to have world champions on the mat. You train children to have complete children who are able to have coordination, motricity, basic skills. And even if they don't want to do judo anymore, they go to, tennis, soccer, I will have given them the ability to do that and to be a good football player or a good tennis player. So I think that's my role, the major role I have as a judo trainer at this age.
And what's your biggest struggle with the kids?
My biggest struggle is sometimes to keep them focused and concentrated after I did the game, because they're still in the game, they're still wanting to play, and I have to tell them, stop, now we are moving to judo, please be focused. Yeah, same implication that they did for the game.
And you don't struggle with motivation?
Not at all. They're all motivated. I managed to create a good group. There is a good atmosphere in the group, and I think that they work most of the time very well.
Do your studies help you a little bit with training the kids?
I think my studies helped me a lot because when I think about, for example, the coaching and leadership module, so training methodology, that gave me a good global overview of, I should do this with them, or I should not act like this with children. So I think that's very complementary. So sports science studies and being a judo trainer.
So before you were doing it more like intuition.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big change I made like the last year, because I'm here since October. And I think that made me improve as a teacher, and I made them improve also as judokas.
It's more sport exercise. Does it mean that it's also useful for you as an athlete, or not really?
It can be. Also before my studies, I've also been passionate for years about strength training, cardio. So I always knew what I had to do and what I was doing. But sometimes on some points it can help, of course.
Why passionate about strength training? For me, this is one of the really nightmares of training.
No, because you are imagining strength training as like a personal coach or a personal trainer. Strength conditioning is something completely different. As a strength conditioning coach, you have to make your athlete performant in his sport. So you have a lot of methods and methodologies of training that are completely not done with like sedentary people, who you find in basic fit, for example, to give an example.
And that's fun. I think it's still training, right?
I think it's fun and it passionates me. So I don't know. I've always been passionate about strength training, maybe also because of Fred.
Yeah, okay. No, of course, we're different people. That's very good. I'm just wondering, leaving it as an open question, that's all. Because true, if it's strength training for me, I already imagine the weights, whatever, that kind of more CrossFit type of thing.
Yeah, that's new also, yeah.
A little bit more about judo, because we just only touched upon it and we said how you started, and yes, we talked a bit about the gentle way and whatever. I guess you still meet people who have no idea about the sport, and you have to explain it to them very quickly, because it's at the party. They want to understand a little bit, but you can't get very much deep. And what do you actually say? What is the sport about?
So you have a judo belt, you have a judogi, and the point is to throw your opponent on his back. you throw him on his back, whether you can have like wazari, so that's 1 point, or if he's completely on his back, that's an ippon. So that's where you win the fight, it's over. Or you can also win on the ground, so you can strangle your opponent, do an armbar, or also hold him for 20 seconds on his back, and then you win a fight, actually. And during a competition, you can have one fight if you lose in the first round, or if you are going to the finals, maybe 5 or 6, depending on the category.
What I also understand is that you use a lot of the strength of your opponent, actually. It's not so much you yourself. Am I right with that or
You're
not?
Right. I mean, that's also a cliche, like what you
Okay,
find
sorry.
on the internet. I mean, the gentle way, like, yeah, it's true. But I mean, at the highest level, you have to be fit physically and you have to be very good technically. So you are winning because you are doing it, not because especially you are using your opponent's weight or I don't know.
No, of course. I mean, it's not that you go there without training.
No.
Yes,
Because in judo, you have like kata. So that's where it's not a fight. So you are just demonstrating technique. And that's also, I think most of the people consider judo just as kata. But we have also like fighting. So randori, so really fights. And then it's completely another thing.
Can you tell me about one kind of particular challenging or difficult moment for you as in your judo career, something that you remember?
I think the hardest part is always weight cut, because it's horrible to cut 3 or 4 kilos. The last day you don't drink anything until 8 p.m. in the evening. So that's really, really hard. And I think I struggled a lot with how to deal with losing. So I had a lot of struggles when I was younger with it. But now I think I managed to overcome it.
Okay, so let's start with the weight cut.
Yeah.
It means that you have to be within certain limits of weights in order to compete. Yeah. And if you don't get it, then what? You're out. Yeah. So you declare it earlier.
You don't especially declare it earlier, so you're going on the scale, and if you weigh 60.1 kilo and it's too late, then you're out, because you don't know until the last moment if you are going to do it or not. So yeah, if you're too heavy, you don't compete. Or in low-level competitions, you can compete, like if you're weighing 61 kilo, then they say, okay, you can fight on a 66 kilo.
But that must be really stressful.
It's the most stressful part of a tournament. So I think fighting is the fun part because I love it, but the weight cut is horrible.
Why is it so strict?
I think it's fair to be strict, because if you allow like certain grams or 1 kilo, it's not fair for everyone. So I think that it's good that judo is strict on the weight cut and on the weight categories, because that makes the sport also beautiful, I think.
And the weight categories, is that every 6 kilograms or how many?
It's 60 for the boys, it's 60, then 66, 73, 81, minus 90, minus 100, and plus 100. And for the girls, it's 48, 52, 57, 63, 70, minus 78, and plus 78.
Oh, I'm very impressed you remembered. He was not reading from any papers here.
I remember because I'm used to it.
Well, of course. But then the 60, I guess, this is your category, right? 60 or 66 sometimes. Yeah. This is only for young judokas, I assume, or you can keep that
or small
forever.
judoka. You can keep it forever. I mean, it depends on your morphotype or morphology, but some judokas are 30, 35 and compete on a 60. There are some judokas who are, I don't know, 1 meter 60 or so. It's very little, so they can manage to do the weight their whole career.
So you said weight, and then we have the second thing, losing. I guess that's something that everybody can relate to, at least everybody who is practicing some sports or competing in something. So what helped you actually accept losing? I guess because can't be fun. It must be still extremely difficult, but I guess you are just better mentally prepared for that now.
I think I didn't learn how to accept it. I think I learned how to deal with it, because I still not accept to lose. But I think I saw like a sports psychologist, and we worked a lot on it. Also like on mental struggles during a fight before a tournament. And he also helped me a lot on how to deal with losing. And Frederick also helped me a lot. So today I overcame this, how can I say, this limit in my head. I improved a lot. So I think that was a great work that I did with the psychologist, and I performed also due to what we did together.
So it's a lot of talking through the possibilities of the fights.
Yes.
And you think that because now when you go to a fight, you're just less afraid to lose, because how does it work?
I think
actually?
The biggest problem I had is when I was fighting, I fought to not to lose. And today I fight to win. And that's a big difference. And now I know that when I step on the mat, I don't even think about losing. I just think I'm going to win. I know what I have to do. I respect the plan, the game plan. And I think that's a big difference, that I fight to win nowadays.
And your brother has the same approach?
My brother is completely different mentally. So my brother, he's not an overthinker like me. I think about every scenario that is possible during a fight, and he just steps on the mat and fights. I think that's a big difference, and I think that's an advantage for him to be like this.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I would assume that it's probably easier not to overthink.
Yeah, it's easier.
But then again, maybe, you get into the scenarios that then will make you more prepared later on. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think that he manages really well during competitions, and I always had struggles to manage the emotions that came from the tournament, and he always steps on the mat, doesn't think about anything, and just fights and does the game plan. So I think that's a big advantage that I did not have 2 or 3 years ago.
Just wondering, from the family side, so how your life looks like. Do you also discuss judo during dinner or not really?
Basically, it's just judo, almost. Yeah, my brother, my father also does judo. So he started 1 or 2 years after we started, so it's in the family. And yeah, my mother tries to be involved in the project because it's a family project. We are all for a family, and we think judo, we eat for judo. So my mother cooks for our weight. Also, that's a huge sacrifice also for the family. So I think that I'm thankful that I had such parents who were implicated in my project.
Yeah, of course. It's really amazing. That's a real support. I'm not surprised that you were so much considering it when thinking of moving, right?
No, it's normal because I couldn't go away thinking that they did everything for me, and now I couldn't see them anymore for 1, 2 or 3 months. That I could not live like this.
I assume that there might be also parents listening to us, parents of future students. So question to you, as you are the son of the parents who are so much involved, what do you think? What should a parent do? Should they push you? Should they let you be? What is the golden rule of parenting when you have someone competing?
I think there is a limit. I think they have to do both. They have to push you, but they also have to trust you and to let you a little bit by your side and trust you, as simply as that. And I think that when you're really passionate, that you have a good family, a good surrounding around yourself and around your project, things come naturally without even thinking about it. So I think that parents can have a huge impact on an athlete's career.
I also think that, in your case, it might have been also a bit special in the sense that, as you're saying, that you were so competitive that your parents didn't really have to tell you, go train.
No.
Or do you remember those moments?
No, sometimes my mother tells me, don't go train, but I still go because, I love it.
And with your brother, do you also spend time without practicing judo, or it's just judo all the time?
Most of the time it's judo, it's training. Sometimes we're having like tennis or football, but it's always about sports. I mean, it runs in our blood.
I have to go also into a bit sadder part, but when you compete at very high level, you have to take into consideration a chance of getting an injury or any kind of problems. Can you imagine what could happen with your life without judo? Do you ever put it in your head or not really?
I never thought about it because, judo is my life. So, but of course, at a certain level, when you compete, you have to be injured. I mean, I have small injuries, but I think that having Fred as a strength coach made me strong, and he also prepares me well because he knows judo by heart because he was also a top level athlete in judo, so he knows exactly what a judoka needs. And I think that it's because of him that I never had a big injury where I had to stop my career or to stop judo for months. That never happened until now, so I hope it will continue like that.
Okay, we talked a lot judo and sports, so we go back now to the LUNEX part, let's say. So the studying. Is it difficult to combine studying with training?
No, really not. I think I'm an organized and structured person, and I think for me, school also in high school was always easy because I didn't have to study too much to have great grades. So I think that it's really easy for me to combine both. That's not a big deal for me.
Okay, maybe it's also because it's the first year,
It's possible,
I don't want to be
but people tell me this every year. Maybe it's because the first year, maybe it's because it's the last year, but every year I have no difficulty at school.
But it's also very true that if you have to train every day very quickly, you need to organize yourself, right? Because with all the homework and whatever, you just know that physically you're sometimes unable to do things from one day to the next.
Yeah, that's key. I mean, organization and structure is what enabled me to keep doing judo at a high level and also combine studies with it.
The classic question that you normally get during job interviews and not interviews for podcasts, but I have to ask it, of course. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years or so?
In the next 5 years, so I hope I will have a master in physical education and that I will find a job as a PE teacher. And also simultaneously, I want to work as a strength coach, but I don't know where. I know it's possible that it will be in Luxembourg, but I don't know which sport because I don't know if it will be in judo, in soccer, in tennis. I mean, I'm open to everything.
And isn't that a problem, actually, that you don't know the sport this much? You can do strength coaching in any sport?
I can do strength coaching in every coach because I'm very good in every sport and I'm interested in a lot of sports. I watch sports. I watch, for example, tennis now in Roland Garros with Djokovic, for example. So yeah, I think it won't be a problem. I can be a strength coach in every sport.
So don't you sometimes, wish that you were doing some sport that is a bit, more popular than if you're so interested in sports? Because judo, I would say that,
It's not popular at all. Judo is, unfortunately, it's not popular at all, but it's an amazing sport. No, I wouldn't consider changing to any other sport, even though I like tennis. I like mixed martial arts a lot. UFC, watching UFC is very cool. But I think that judo will be my last sport. I mean, I won't change.
Okay, so I'll be keeping my fingers crossed. And last but not least, a classic question that we always have in the podcast. So about the LUNEX experiences, we talk a lot about it here at LUNEX. And I wanted you to tell us, what is LUNEX experience for you?
So I think there are three majors, so three key points. So first of all, the system. So we have module one at a time. So that enables me, for example, to have just anatomy. And then I can focus also on judo, because in other universities, you have physiology, biomechanics, anatomy, everything at once. Then you have an exam period, and that's very stressful to combine both, because I have friends of mine who are studying, for example, in Austria or in France, and it's difficult to combine both. And I think that having the chance to do an internship in the first year is also an amazing chance, because we are directly immersed in the professional world, and that's what also will await us later on. Then I think the teachers, we have in most of the time experts in their field, and they are very good at what they do and the proximity that we have with them. So we are small classes, so we have the chance to be confronted to them and to exchange with them and can talk to them whenever we want. And that's not the case in other universities where you have like 200 or 300 students in a class. Sometimes the teachers don't even know the students and the students don't even know the teachers. So I think that's a big asset, a big plus, and also the material you have. So if we study something theoretically, we can also test it in the lab. And that's also because we have small classes. So everybody can test some, not for everything, of course, but we have a very well and very high quality material in the lab. We have a football field when we can experience things and do what we saw during the lessons. So I think for these 3 points, LUNEX is amazing for that.
What do you mean you can experience it in the lab? So
for example, I had physiology, a module for physiology, and then we could test, for example, the maximum aerobic power on a bike, because we have it in the lab. So lactic acid also. So everything you see in theory in the books, you can also experience them in the lab, for example.
That's the best way to study, really.
That's the best thing to do.
It just stays with you for sure. Okay, now I get it fully. All right. No, I think this is it. This is it. We've discussed so many things, and you took us on this journey through judo and studying and internships and everything. Do you have anything else to say to our listeners or anything to add?
No, I think that just, I hope that because of the podcast, some children or so young adults want to try judo. And I think that's the best thing that can happen, that because of my podcast, some children or young adults or teenagers, I want to try judo.
Yes, or they come to study at LUNEX as well.
Or do both.
Exactly.
Come to study at LUNEX and start judo.
Yes, first you start judo, then you come to LUNEX, because I guess that's the age.
Yeah.
Yes, but for sure you see what is personally interesting for me is that the judo is a great kind of initiation to sport. Whatever you do later, as you were saying, is just, to become a fuller person, I think you said.
Complete athlete. Judo is a school of life for values and for physical abilities.
Okay, thank you so much, Noah, for today.
Thank you.
Train, Study, Work, Repeat is a LUNEX Unfiltered podcast produced by Silex.